Well, what a great honor this is to be here. I always describe Peter Drucker, he forgot more than most of us ever knew about management and leadership. You know, my mother used to say, why don't you write a book by yourself? And I've only written 2 books by myself, one on golf. So many people helped my golf game, I didn't know who to write it with. And a book on my spiritual journey. But Peter wrote 35 books by himself. And so I ran out of material pretty early. So it's just such an honor because he's such a guru in our field and a great human being. So to be part of this centennial and to spend some time with Warren Bendis and Charles Handy tomorrow, what a thrill. I just, be happy to, carry the water bucket for those guys. So I really enjoy being here. Let me just share with you what I'm spending most of my time now is trying to help people lead at a higher level. And we define leading at a higher level as helping people accomplish worthwhile goals while taking into consideration the needs and concerns of all involved. Making money is not a worthwhile goal. It is a byproduct of doing good things. And so when we talk about leading at a higher level, we're really talking about, in many ways, a triple, a quadruple bottom line, which I wish Wall Street would adopt, which is that profit is the applause you get for taking care of your customers, treating your people well, and being a good citizen in your environment. And you want to be a provider of choice, you want to be an employer of choice, you want to be a citizen of choice, and sure, you want to be the investment of choice too. I was reading, I was telling a group earlier, a wonderful quote from the Dalai Lama recently, and he said that businesses are complex organizations. They are not money-making machines. And he said that sure, making money is important so that organizations can what? Do good things. But he said human beings can't survive if they don't have food or water. But to define us as, just, gatherers of food and water and all really misses the point. We need food and water so we can do good things and make a difference in life. And I think that's what's really true. So what I want to talk to you about is if you're going to lead at a higher level, what would that mean in this tough economic times? And I'm suggesting to people that there's 3 things we need to focus on in tough economic times if we're going to lead at a higher level. The first one is, as leaders, we need to be bearers of hope. If you're not hopeful, then your people are in big trouble. It doesn't mean you should deny the truth about the present reality, but what you really need to do is to say, we can make this through this. We've done this in the past. We're very fortunate, Margie and I have a 94-year-old entrepreneur on our board of directors. And he said, come on, I went through the Depression, 29. He said, they didn't have any systems or anything. He said, this is tough, but that was really tough, So Pat has been just a wonderful perspective setter for us. And so that you really need to be bearers of hope and say, we can do this. Let's hang together. This is tough, but we can make it. And to show you the power of being hopeful, why don't you all stand up? I want to do a couple of things. First, what I want you to do is, within the limits of where you're sitting, I'd like you to take about 30 seconds and greet as many people as you possibly can, but greet them in a special way. Greet them as if they're unimportant and you're looking for somebody much more important to talk to. So if you could... Okay. Okay, stop where you are, but don't sit down. Stop where you are, but don't sit down. What I'd like you to do now is, for another 30 seconds, greet as many people as possible. At this time, greet them as if they're a long-lost friend and you are really glad to see them. Okay, you can sit down. You can sit down. You can sit down. When I'm not in California, I always say to people, why do you think I did that, besides I'm from California? And we're going to bring in some hot tubs a little bit later. But the reason I did that is that if you want to run a great organization, great family, great church and all, you have to know how to manage people's energy, including your own. Which of the two activities was there more energy in the room, the first one or the second one? Second one, significant. And what did I do to change the whole energy? All I changed was what you were thinking about. From a negative thought, these are unimportant people, to a positive thought, these are long-lost people. And all of a sudden, the energy in the room changed, see? And it's really interesting. I don't know how many of you know that the brain and the computer have a lot in common. You know what they have in common? Both the brain and the computer do not know the difference between the truth and what you tell it. When you put information in a computer, it doesn't say these facts are wrong, where'd you get these facts? The computer will do whatever it can with the input you give it. What have we said about the computer for years? Garbage in, what? Garbage out. You know the brain is the exact same way? Your brain doesn't know the difference between the truth and what you tell it. If you woke up this morning, looked in the mirror and said, you were fabulous, your brain is going to say, who are you kidding? You know, I know you a lot better than that. And so one of the things that's just amazing is the power of what? Being a positive force and being a thing of hope and helping program people's minds in a positive way. I'm not talking about in a negative way. And what's so interesting is that when you start to be hopeful and send positive messages to people, what happens to their behavior? I didn't tell you how to behave, did I? But how did you behave when I said these are unimportant people? Very little eye contact, shoulders down, very little touching past by each other. Then I said, these are long-lost friends. What happened? Your faces lit up. You started to laugh. You started to hug each other. I didn't tell you what to do. But just changing your energy by what I put in your brain changed the whole behavior in the room and changed the energy. And so I can't say enough about that. I started a golf school a number of years ago. I'm a golf nut. And it was so funny. You know, I'm not a teacher of golf, but I worked on the mental part of golf, which is such an amazing game because golf is so much like life because you get good breaks you don't deserve, you get bad breaks you don't deserve, you get good breaks you do deserve, you get bad breaks you do deserve. Sometimes you're playing better than you should and you got to deal with success. Sometimes you're playing worse and you got to deal with failure. All in 4.5 hours. And that stupid ball's just sitting there and nobody else can deal with it. But you. So it's really kind of fascinating. But we would have people come to our golf school and say, oh, I'm terrible out of sand traps. And we'd say, you can't hit out of the sand, can you? They say, how do you know? You said you couldn't. You know, I mean, how are you going to do more than you think? And so we used to say to them when they got in the sand, I love the sand. I'm one of the greatest sand players on the West Coast. You know, I mean, the mind doesn't know. You've got to be kidding me. So we first had them be really positive, and then we had them walk like they knew what they're doing. Because your physiology, which you all did, should follow your beliefs. Okay? And so we'd have them walk into the trap. Hey, let me in there, baby. Man, I'm one of the best, you know. And then, of course, we teach them some skills, and it was amazing how they could get the ball out of the sand trap. Because they started to think that they could do it and walk like they could do it, and then they could take the things. But you get people say, I can't do it. No. You can give them the best teaching in the world. They're not going to do anything. And so the first thing I want to really emphasize with you, in all your interactions and all, you got to be a bearer of hope. If you got a bunch of niggers around you, dump them. Get rid of them. You don't need them in your life. I mean, I don't even look at the newspaper anymore, except the sports section or the news. Book with Norman Vincent Peale, the old positive thinking minister. He was 86 years old when I met him, and I loved what he said. I said to him one day, Norman, why doesn't the news publish more good news? He said, I'm so glad they don't. He said, if good news was news, there wouldn't be much of it going on. He said, the only reason bad news is bad is not much of it happening. When you really think about business, you think, listen to the local news. There's a fire, a couple of rapes, maybe a murder, and all that, but millions of people got home and nobody says anything about it, and they even take care of their families. You know, and so what we got to do is, I was on TV recently, they said, what do you think of this economic downturn? I said, you finally accomplished your goals. You've been programming our minds for so long, and all, why don't you get off of it? And so what we need to be is bearer of hopes. The second thing is that you got to look at your people as your business partners. I've seen so many organizations, tough times, they get behind closed doors, the top manager, figuring what are we going to do, and all, everybody's sitting out there trying to wait, wonder what they're going to do. That's the stupidest thing in the world. Because your people know all kinds of things that you don't know. You got to invite them as your business partner. You know, we had our greatest year last year. Our company, we got 320 folks working for us. We have an office in Toronto, London, and Singapore, and partners in 30 nations. And we had the greatest year in the history of our company, 30 years last year. But you could see it starting heading down in November and December. January, it hit the toilet and all. And it really could see that the data that we're going to be down 20% or more and all that kind of thing. And we had a 30-year anniversary planned. And so it was supposed to be a 2-day celebration. We took one of the days and we brought in the Wildworks group that has worked here at the Drucker Center. And with 350 people, we brought people into small groups and brainstorming ways to cut costs, ways to increase revenues, all kinds of things and all. Why? Because they got so much data. They know what's ongoing out there. You know, one of the things you got to get is that none of us is as smart as all of us. And somehow people think in organizations that all the brains are at the top of the organization. That's crazy. You got some of the smartest people in the world that can really help you there. I was last summer, the summer before, I was with Southwest Airlines when the gas price was a real problem in the airline industry. This was before the economy hit the skids. And here's Gary Kelly, the new CEO and president, took over from Colleen Barrett, and Herb Keller is both still involved, saying to people, we need your help. You know, what can we do to increase revenues? What can we do to cut costs? And it was from one of their employees that they came up with this whole thing where you can call ahead to Southwest Airlines and get, you know, a privileged thing for $35 or something. You can get in the front of the line, you know, because normally they don't have any first-class seating and all, but you at least can get in front of the line. That has brought millions of dollars into them just by people paying $35 or $40, a little extra to get in line. One of their people in working as a mechanic said, why don't we eliminate uniforms? You know, that's costing us a lot of money, you know. And they go, whoa, you know, let's really take a look at that. And the point I want to make is that your people know a lot about what's happening out there. And you need to involve them as your business partner. Stop turning your back on them and thinking that all the brains are in the top of the organization. And it's so interesting. People have asked me, how do you build trust in an organization in tough times? It starts with respect. And my friend Ichak Adisis, who taught at UCLA for years, has a wonderful concept about the difference between trust and respect. It's a nonverbal thing. So, you know, if I respect Margie, I face her because I want her opinion. If I don't respect her, I turn my back on her because I could care less about what she thinks. If she trusts me, she's willing to turn her back on me because she knows I don't mean her any harm. If she doesn't trust me, she watches me like a hawk. And see, one of the things is if you will face your people and bring them into the decision-making and share data with them in terms of, boy, in our meeting at the end of February, we shared everything with our people. We do it every quarter, including our bank loans. Where are we there? What kind of money can we borrow? And all that kind of, a lot of people say, well, I've never been in a company that did like that. Well, we need your help. You've got to have the information. I was working with a president who owned a bunch of restaurants one time. And I was trying to say is you got to have your people as your business partner. And he was running around like this with the balance sheet and all this kind of stuff. So one night we went into his biggest restaurant about 10 at night when they were kind of cleaning up and everybody had pretty well left. And we got everybody into the dining room. We had dishwashers, pot washers, chefs, receptionists, you know, bus boys, you know, everybody. We got them into round tables of about 6, and we said, at your table, why don't you all talk and come out and share with us at the end of the discussion of every sales dollar that comes into this restaurant, what do you think falls to the bottom line in terms of profit that can be returned to the owners or reinvested in the business? You know the least that was guessed at any table? 40 cents. 2 tables guessed 70%. You know what the profit margin in a restaurant is? Any restaurant people here? If you can keep 5 cents, you're excited. 10 cents, you know, you're in ecstasy. And what blew the president's mind is the head chef said, let me see if I get this right. If we buy a steak for $6 and we sell it for $20 and our profit margin then is $1 and I burn a steak, we have to sell 6 steaks for no profit to make up for my wastage. He already had the thing figured out. But if people think you're making 40, 70 cents a dollar, do you think they care about food costs, labor costs, any other kinds of things? You got to involve your people because their jobs depend on you staying profitable and all, but they got to at least know what the deal is. And so I can't tell you enough, in good and bad times, you got to look at your people as your business partners. The third thing that I think is really key is that you got to be servant leaders. And when I talk about servant leadership, a lot of people think I'm talking about the inmates running the prison or trying to please everybody or some kind of religious movement. They don't really understand leadership. See, there's 2 parts of servant leadership. One is strategic leadership, which is all about vision and direction. And the other is about operational leadership, which is all about implementation. Okay? The strategic leadership, which just says, what business are we in? What's the picture of the future? What are our values? What are our goals? What are the initiatives that we're going to focus on this year? That's the leadership part of servant leadership. And that's very important because if people don't know where you're going, your leadership doesn't matter. I mean, Alice learned that in Alice in Wonderland. Remember when she came to the fork in the road and didn't know what to do, and the fool Cheshire Cat's sitting there and says, which road should I take? And he said, where are you going? She said, I don't know. He said, it doesn't matter. And so I want to tell you, if you don't do strategic leadership right, your leadership doesn't matter. But now the second part of servant leadership is operational leadership or implementation, which is, now how do we take the strategy, the vision, the values, the direction, initiative, and accomplish them and live according to them? And now what you got to do is that the strategic part, the leadership part of servant leadership, that's the responsibility of the traditional hierarchy. It doesn't mean that you don't involve other people, but people look to the hierarchy for direction and vision and where are we going and all these kinds of things. And so that's their responsibility. And then you want, once you've done that, you want people to join your organization who will be responsive to the strategy, to the vision and the direction that you've set. Now, when it comes to operational leadership or implementation, now the traditional hierarchy doesn't work. What you have to do is philosophically turn it upside down so that now the leaders at the top who set the vision and direction and the strategy and all, they're at the bottom as head cheerleaders, supporters, encouragers. And who's at the top? The people closest to the customers. And this is the most tough thing for most organizations. And the reason why they don't get much help from their customers or their people is they got big egos at the top of the organization. And they want to keep the hierarchy alive and well for implementation, see? You want to make sure you know who's in charge and who's this and all. And so what happens is you have all the energy in the organization sucking up the hierarchy. If there's a conflict between a customer need and what your boss wants you to do, who wins? The boss. You're no idiot because they're evaluating you, so you better suck up the hierarchy. And what happens is that the customers now are left there in the middle of a duck pond. Wayne Dyer, the great personal growth guy, years ago said there's 2 kinds of people in life. There are ducks and there are eagles. And what do ducks do? They go quack, 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 quack. And what do the eagles do? They soar above the crowd. Okay, you can always tell an organization run by self-serving leaders because the hierarchy is alive and well, because if you got a problem with the customer, they go quack, quack, it's our policy, quack, quack, I just work here, quack, quack, I didn't make the freaking rules, Quack, quack, do you want to talk to my supervisor? Quack, 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 quack. And that's what they're doing. They're just quacking away at you. And that's a real problem, where you can always tell when the organization's turned upside down, because what are you doing? You're dealing with eagles who can soar above the crowd. They'll say, don't worry, I'll get back to you. I'll take care of it and all. They can bring their brains to work. Just to show you a couple of fun examples of this. When I travel, I have this thing I put around my neck. I call it my